Welcome back to another episode of Event Masters. This is the show where we take event producers and turn them into event masters. We have a rock solid guest this week. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the show, Event Masters. You need to listen to this if you want to throw bigger and better events. Learn how to monetize and land bigger racks. Yeah, this is where you can learn how to do that. Event Masters.
Another episode 18 of Event Masters. I'm your co-host, Patrick Van Dusen. Alongside of me, Dylan Shinholzer.
What's up, people? What's up,
Hey.
Patrick? How are you? Another
I'm doing
weekend.
well.
We missed you last week.
I know. I apologize.
It was
I'm
your-
back now. Back in
It
action.
was your so-called birthday. I heard.
Yeah.
That's what they say when they miss work. Actually, folks.
Yeah, it took a few hours off of work. Much needed because I actually work on the weekends. Not a lot of people know that.
True.
But yeah, episode 18 though, we're rocking and rolling. I'm excited for this week's guest. We kind of got to talk to him a little bit before this, but I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah. Well, first, before we do that, folks, of course, we got to do a weekly housekeeping because, if we don't ask you guys, you don't do it. So make sure you like, subscribe, and follow us on all social medias, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. And if you're an audio folk like myself, go ahead, Apple, Spotify, soon to be Amazon. Look, we're everywhere. Podcast is growing, and today is no different. Like you said, man, we got another cool guest. I'm excited for him. But first, Patrick, before we even do that,
I think I know where you're going.
Can we introduce something to the folks? Like the whole idea, right? The big mission between me and you is value-driven community and everything, right? So for those of you who have missed some of our announcements this week, I actually want to extend this relationship beyond this video on Facebook or YouTube. And I want you to genuinely right now pull out your phone because ViewStub and Event Masters just launched our first and one of the biggest text communities on this planet. Okay, it's gonna go down as the greatest event professional text community on this planet. So if you guys will do me a favor right now, take out your phone, and as you can see below, text Event Masters to 407-214-5335. That is literally gonna be us. And you will be able to get inside information on Event Masters, ViewStub in general, reminders on coming up, special tips, connecting with the speakers themselves and everything like that. So go ahead, text us, Event Masters, 407-214-5335. Just had to get that out of the way. I'm going to leave this up the rest of the day, but now we can get into it. Just had to get that out of the way. Sorry. Had to get all the less fun stuff out of the way, but the community is going to be fun. But speaking of community and culture and everything, do you have anything to add real quick? Sorry, I was moving on.
Next Friday.
Next Friday. What is next Friday? What's next Friday? Wait, is next Friday something?
Event next.
Oh,
June
yeah.
4th. Our event for ViewStub. Registrations are climbing huge. And what's really cool, the reason I'm mentioning is Dylan and I are going to have a special guest of that episode that day, which at the event, which is super cool. So.
Yep. We are premiering an episode of Event Masters at Event Next. So that'll be really cool. I'm excited for that guest. And so enough foreshadowing. Next week guest is really cool, but like this one is really cool as well. Like he's actually doing events this year. Has brought back actually one of the biggest in-person events that I've seen in this industry come back fully in person. And it was a massive success. And I got to see the insides of it and behind the scenes. And we were chatting beforehand and all that good stuff. So I know how much work they put into this. And so I'm excited to deep dive into this event. So if you guys are looking at how to throw a hybrid event and an event in general in 2021 and beyond, this is the video and this is the episode you guys want to watch because this is a breakdown of a real life example of what it took to go from concept to execution of the Million Dollar Mastermind. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and bring up Tyler Dozier and let's just get into today.
What is up, fellas? Hey, thanks for having me.
What's up, man? Yeah, likewise. I appreciate you hopping on here today. I'm excited to break this down, dude. I'm a big fan of the event and the people behind it. So let's waste no time today. And let's just get into it. Like I said, with before we go into the event and everything it took to get that event off the ground and running and executed like you guys did, Let's take a couple minutes to learn about you, though, because you have an interesting background and how you got here. So let's dive into that story, and then we'll move into the event.
Definitely. Yeah. So my name's Tyler Dozier for everyone listening in, and I am the event coordinator over at Breakfree Academy underneath Ryan Stewman. So the way that I got on stage kind of and in part with Ryan is that I was running events at a much smaller scale for a Christian sports camp. So in these Christian ministries, it was a overnight camp in South Texas. So I'd, drive on out there and do that for 70, 80 kids. We'd house them. I'd do all this stuff, the emceeing, the skits, the schedule, all the activities, figuring out all that stuff. And so I've always been kind of a logistics person, but in part of that is that I was also doing all of our events and trainings and whatnot at the gymnastics gym that I was managing for 8 years. So from 2012 to 2020, I was actually doing that. I was kind of capped in that space. I was working everything from these birthday parties. I was the manager, but I was still doing things like kids' birthday parties and the parents' night out events and the, setting up all of the corporate staff events and our team building activities, again, all of our trainings from staff trainings to summer camp trainings, like everything. And being capped there, I was like, I want to work the same amount of hours because I'm working my tail off, but I want to kind of be in control of my own destiny here. So when I, got into Breakfree Academy, I actually got in as a sales rep. So getting people into our flagship program that is Apex. I started with that. And during my interview, I kind of mentioned some of my background in events. Well, Thomas Keenan, who's our COO, he gets in. And after I get hired, I was doing okay in the sales side of things, but there was a deep need for them to have someone kind of running events because they were doing them and they were converting, but there were a lot of things that were not in tune with them, to put it lightly. I, would do an event and there was, a laundry list of things I looked at that I'm like, dude, these people are sitting in these chairs and someone mentions a packet and now we're going by and one by one handing out packets, like instead of putting them in seats or like, having them set out a number per row and things like that, just making it easier. Having a coffee bar in the back of the rooms, but not in the separate room. So when people are making freaking espressos, you hear it, you get all that background sound. And so they're not hearing who's up on stage talking, or they're in the very back of the room and you've got freaking one screen for slides and everything, and they can't see the stuff. There were just small things like that. And so I was like, here's the things that I saw and the things that we could do a lot better. And then because of COVID, our main MC, Danny Galvez, he was sick and couldn't make it to an event. So like with 6 hours planning, they're like, hey, you're emceeing this event. And so I show up and like kind of crush it because they didn't know that I had done all this stuff and they didn't want to do it. And so I get up there and, start getting people to laugh and everything and having a good time, but keeping the ball rolling. And they're like, dude, run these things from here. And it's funny because I got in the job not actually knowing who Ryan Stewman was at all. I got into a conversation with Drewby Wilson, who is the VP, and at a men's group one morning, 7 a.m. in Frisco, and didn't know anyone there, and sit down, have this conversation. This dude had quintupled his salary, had lost 50 pounds, life had totally changed. And people were like, what is he doing? And I had a conversation, and 2 weeks later, he's like, hey, you should come apply at this spot. You can make some good money. And I get in there, don't know who Ryan is at all, and just kind of start working. And I'm like, oh, this guy's pretty well known. And, here we are now. I get a chance with MDM. That was the first one that they're like, this one's completely you from start to finish. And it worked out all right. So,
wow.
Yeah.
From Christian school to running sales conferences.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. It's
an interesting.
What a transition.
That's a nice transition there. He's like, I was running Christian schools, gymnastic centers, and then bam, India.
Yeah.
Which is
there's so many parallels in it all, though.
You're 100% right. And so like that's what I explain to a lot of people all the time is like logistics are logistics. Doesn't matter what it is. Like it just depending on the size of the event. I think I even told you this. Like it's no different than what you do for 30 people that you do for 30,000. It's just a lot more people involved. That's really the only difference. Logistics are just as a pain for 10 people as they usually are 10,000.
Yeah.
It's like herding cats. It's just more cats. So with that being said, let's fast forward now to the MDM event, the Million Dollar Mastermind. What was that day like? I'm super curious because you are the logistics brain of this, and I imagine someone like Ryan Stewman is more visionary, come in here, get it done. This is my idea, figure it out kind of cat. So let's go back to that day that happened where he walked in the office and said, yo, team, we're throwing the $1 Million Mastermind. What was the concepts and ideas that he had that you then in turn had to, from that moment, come and pull off?
Yeah. So Monday morning event or Monday morning team meeting, we come in there and, actually before I had gotten hired on, they'd already kind of had things in place. The only thing that was really set in place is that we were going to use this one specific hotel and they had already signed the contract on it. First problem, because I, looking back on some of those things, there was already a lot there that they didn't know that they're particularly kind of getting screwed on, honestly. And that's kind of the way that the hotel business runs. They make their money with heads and beds and food and beverage. And so then they just up price everything else. But they had set that stuff into motion already. And then he basically told me all the speakers. He's like, I sent out basically 20 texts and 20 people are telling me yes, like they're going to speak at the event. And I'm like, dang it, dude. Like, I wish that we could kind of talk through some of this too, because if we have all these people, there's some things that need to go into that too. Like there needs to be breakout rooms. There needs to be some space for people to breathe and go to the bathroom and just like let their brains relax some, because these 2-day events like fry them. Right. And so he kind of lays out all this stuff. Like, this is what I want. I want this and this. And it was very vague. And so from there, I had to kind of take it and then just make it my own and present it to him and say, hey, this is what I've done for you. And then, 30 times he says, nope, that sucks. Or yeah, that's cool. Or this is what I had in mind. And whether it's the stage or the lighting or, what the food's going to look like, what the Q&As are going to look like, all that stuff. So I got a typical little rectangular stage about 3 feet off the ground. He's like, nope, hate it. He's like, I want something else. So I give him a runway one and he's like, nope, don't want that. And then it finally is like that triangular shape that you got to see with like the lighting, the pixel tubes all around it and everything to flash that stuff up, make it look pretty, all the draping and all that. So he was very vague with it all, but he'd set that stuff into motion and we were kind of all just attacking it at once. Well, then this was probably in like January. So I was still new to the team. I get in, I do that event in February. In February. And that's when they're like, we want you to take the reins on all this because you have clearly a better idea than what we do on it. And they're like, we just show up and we speak content and people love that, but anyone can sit there and speak value in their story or give them some tactical strategies. It's what is the experience, because that is where people are going to be like, that's what takes something from good to life-changing. And the life-changing, when you've got someone on stage that's coming up, bringing up their MacBook before they go on stage 3 minutes beforehand, and we're having to make these changes and you've got this blank screen up there on stage, like that takes away from the experience. Right. And so I was like, we can't have any of that. All this has to be centralized. Everything is going to be like to the minute. And it was very interesting, but I took it, ran with it, and they allowed me to have some autonomy in my creative process. And I'm pretty happy with it, but obviously there's a lot more that we could do better. So
wow. It sounds like he was winning just because he was Stewman and was relying on that, and then needed someone like you. He was like, "Yeah, I'm Ryan. I can pull this shit off all the time." Right. And then, but there's still layers that he's missing without folks like you. So
Tyler, you actually touched on that in the beginning a little bit about yourself. Is you made me think about how much these business coaches and consultants and these business conferences, they're not event people. Right. And so they like kind of just, they're on the high level and they don't realize that they need someone in the detailed logistics, the day to day, right? They're not thinking about, like you said, the coffee in the back and people can hear it and whatnot. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that we see a lot. I know Dylan sees a lot. That's where Dylan comes in with his event management people, is because we work with all these top performers and coaches and consultants, and they're just like, I do business so good, I can knock out this event. And then like we start working with them, and then they're like super messy. And it's not them, it's just they need an event guy to do the logistics. And And I think you kind of hinted at it. Yeah, it kind of goes into my next question is like, what would you say is your biggest?
Oh no.
Oh no! Welcome to live TV, people.
We got you on the lag mid sentence.
Sorry.
Are you back?
I'm back now? I think
Yeah,
my
you did.
crapping out. All right, so.
Nope, not back. I love live TV. Anyways, I think Are you here, man? Are you good? He's frozen again. All right, we're gonna pop him off for a second. Anyways, but I think I know where he was going with that. Is when you went into that obviously being the bridge between a visionary and then actual reality, you've got to run into some problems, right? Yeah. You've got to run into some friction. You've got to run into some things you've got to overcome and solve. And I think Patrick's coming back. So let's lock down some of that and break down some of the issues that you guys faced planning and coming back. Because you had a big idea. It was, we're bringing together 1,000+ people, right? And we want to bring it all back in the middle of a pandemic, right? And when people are probably giving you crap about don't even go in person, right? And all of that. And you went against all of that and pulled off a successful, safe event. But I guarantee you faced issues and problems leading into that. So what were a couple that stand out to you? And then how did you overcome those?
Yeah. So 2 weeks leading up to the event, that was the beginning of 2 straight 90-hour weeks of just like going hard in the paint of putting all this stuff together. That was when the most work was happening. It was some of the biggest things that we ran into is, about a month on April 6th. So about 3 weeks right before the event, we go into the hotel. We had the square footage and everything. But I was like, dude, we need to do a walkthrough of this place, because if I just show up and I have these, dimensions of what our stage is going to be, how everything's going to be set up, and then don't see the space at all, that's going to present some problems. And it did. So when we show up for the walkthrough on the 6th, we realized that this room is very wide, but not very deep. And so, the way that we had set it up is that from the wall, the back wall, our stage was 50 feet long. So the point of that triangle was 50 feet, protruding, which took up about half of the room. So our stage was taking up probably going to X out about 500 seats. And we're like, we're not going to be able to fit this. We're going to have to do some crappy looking overflow room or something here. So we had to go in and make some changes to those side of things. And then working with the hotel was a pretty large bottleneck, because you have things like, hey, we need one direct line for Wi-Fi. And they come to you and they say, okay, for one line that y'all are going to use for your live stream, we're going to charge you $10,000. And we're like, you wish. Yeah, you thought. But there's some things like that just constantly pop up. Like, hey, we have riggers and everything. Nope, you have to use our riggers. And so, when you do that, they have a 4-hour minimum on them. And there's and they do their work for 45 minutes. And then they still have to be fixed by our people anyways, because they do the stuff wrong. And there are a lot of things like that pop into play. But some of the things that presented itself that were just a little bit more stressful for me were, we have a speaking event, conference style, all this, and a bunch of speakers. Well, about 3 weeks before the event, Ryan comes to me and he calls me in the office during an event. So I'm in a separate tower in our office building. I come across during a lunch hour, and he's sitting there, hands on the table, desk, just sitting there, kind of listening to music in the office. It's on the speakers blaring and everything. Here's the thing. All right. First night, we're going to have 3 bands that are going to come up and play. And we're going to do an after party and everything with it. And he's like, so we're going to get them in. And I'm like, okay, it was fine when we had just a couple of handheld mics for a couple of rappers that are coming on with a DJ. That's an easy setup. A full band setup is completely different, right? And the way that we set up the speakers and everything to make sure that they have the delay and they can hear themselves and whatnot, so that everyone can be cohesive as a band. It's just a completely different audio setup. And just small things that you don't think about when you're a visionary and you don't run that stuff. Because like you had mentioned, it really is, it's Ryan shows up to these events, gets paid a bunch of money to speak at them, and then pieces out. Like, that's all he has to do. He shows up, talks, and then goes home and collects his awesome paycheck during it. But he doesn't have to deal with the, who's refilling the water stations around, who's doing this or that, and a lot of this stuff has always just been in person. And so bringing it back, we did deal with some people that were really like 1,000 questions before committing to a ticket, because they're like, well, what are y'all doing for COVID? And what are y'all doing with this? And so we have to deal with the, hotel staff and that, and, Ryan, but while we're doing that and saying like, hey, we can pass out these masks, we can do temperature checks as they're walking up and everything, but y'all have like 3 separate entry points that come to our floor. So we have to find out a flow of traffic to get them to registration tables, to make sure that they're going where we want them to go, right? You registration table from there, you have the option if you're a VIP or platinum guest to go take these free headshots, like things like that. So we have to figure out, how do we set this stuff up vendors wise, sponsors wise, so that our top vendors are getting the eyes when people walk out of that room, that they're getting the most amount of traffic, small things like that just go into it. And so, Ryan didn't think of all that stuff. So when he comes up with things last second, that's just how his brain works. He's like, I've got this vision, and he's like, you're supposed to still stay within this budget, but now I've added on 3 other things. So now that budget has to raise, Ryan, and so it's just a lot of things like that constantly happen. And then when you're managing it as a small team, where it was me and really like one other person that was really instrumental in running the event, it was like you're managing 8 different teams, which ends up being 50 different people, but you're responsible for the experience of 1,000. So it's like, how many people are you really directly responsible for? And when you kind of take pride in what you do, like I do, I'm like, this thing, I want it to be my baby. And when you do that, it puts a lot of stress on you. Right. And so things come up, but we figured it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a key takeaway too, though. It's like problems are going to happen. Deadlines are going to shift. Budgets are going to shift a week prior to the event. Like, I deal with that as well. Clients come to me a week before and they're like, "Hey, we need to change all of this." Or I've had literally, like, you just got to become a problem solver. And I think that's one thing you got to take away from all the glitz and glam of events like this. And when you start peel back layers, like event planners and event folks like us are really just problem solvers. Like anyone can map out and plan an event, but it really does become, okay, crap. Ryan just walked in and said we have 3 bands now performing. Crap. All right, let me solve this, right? So, and then goes into how you deliver that experience. So, I mean, kudos to you, because I've watched, I know what it takes to put these things on, and I saw the execution. So, kudos to you guys and the team and everybody. Well, Patrick, where are you taking us next? Where are we going? You back with us?
A little bit, yeah. Right.
That good old Orlando internet.
I'm taking. No, I love how you did the performance. I mean, we went back to, I think we were talking about in a couple episodes with screen fatigue, and I went to another event that's similar to Ryan's called Board of Advisors, and they had these 2 rapper guys coming on, just like funny dissing people. And it was like, even for me that goes to a lot of events, I'm kind of like, oh, this is really great, but I don't get like super engaged because I go to so many, right? But even then I was like, whoa, this is actually like, I sat there and like watched the whole thing and I got like super engaged. And I think what Ryan's doing and what you guys did with the performances, because how many events have we done where it's just like, hey guys, welcome to day 1 of whatever association conference. We're gonna start now. And it's like so just plain. I think that's just such an awesome way to start off.
Yeah. In the mornings, just get them up and moving and get some energy pumping there. And then, it was also a good breakage for some of the people that weren't interested in that stuff. For some of them, they're like, dude, I really just want to sit here and learn and be lectured for hours. Cause there are those people too. Right. But it just having those certain types that were like, I want to sit there and get up out of my seat and like jump around and everything, kind of like bob my head. And like, I want to be tapping my foot to the beat. And they want those things too. They crave it because that's ultimately, again, what they're paying for. I will say this one thing you mentioned, Dylan, you're like, timelines change, deadlines change, right? A big thing that I dealt with. This was probably one of the hardest things that put the most stress on me, because I did something that people don't do for AV companies. And I did every bit of the graphic design that you saw on those stages. So the only things that I didn't do were like Keith Craft's slides and a couple other people. So like everything from the transitions, the music that was tied to them, I'd take these pictures of all these other people, or I'd have buffer slides, in between. So like when someone's talking, you have the itinerary QR code or something like that. Just having something up there that people, if their eyes are drawn to it, and I would constantly figure out ways to direct attention away from the stage. So if I was moving off the DJ equipment, I didn't want people eyes on me. I wanted a video on the outside screens so that I would divert their attention away from me on the stage, because ultimately that took away from the experience too. But what was really hard was putting that stuff together when all the speakers and the talent are 2 weeks behind on deadlines. So you make those deadlines 2 weeks in advance, or, 2 weeks ahead, because you know that they're not going to show up till last minute anyways, right? I say, hey, here's a deadline on the 14th when the day is the 28th or whatever that the actual event is. Hey, it's on the 14th. And then you just follow up with them constantly, but you still have, if there's 20 speakers or 16 speakers, whatever the final number was on that, and 4 of them haven't put in their slides and everything, it now holds me up in my process of putting all these things together. And so that was another big time bottleneck there. But
I don't know anyone like that who would do that to an event planner who would wait until the last week to give us his presentation.
Never.
I don't know anyone, Patrick. Yeah. I think he's frozen again, but hopefully you heard me. But anyways, I know.
No, I'm not freezing. I'm freezing. I didn't do it that bad. I was a little bit late though.
So he was a little late. They
were playing that game with me. But
no, I mean, I think that's super cool.
I kind of wanted to get into the production of it.
I
thought it was really cool. Just the live streaming with the graphics and stuff.
I was about to say, before we even talk about it, because I do want to pick your brain on the thoughts that went into this and why you broadcasted it in this fashion. But is it cool if I show some people like how you kicked off this bad boy? Like, because it is in such a different fashion, because I think you understood your community, your culture. You wanted to kick off the day in an entertainment value way. So I actually have I want to screen share from you guys' event. I want to show people, instead of us talking about it, I want to show them what you guys did. Yeah. And we'll go from there. How about that?
It was great with like the overlays, the transitions. Like we were just talking about, I just mentioned again, screen fatigue episode. Like it wasn't just one camera right there. You guys actually did like actual production, which I thought was really great. So
yeah.
And this was smart by you guys, and I know Joey played a lot into this. But for those of you guys, I'm going to cut into a performance that they opened day 2 with. But Joey is also, who you're about to see, is also the guy who sings our song for here at EventMASTERS. But you're seeing a really interesting way to take pre-recorded content, really storytelling, cool stuff, and how to tie it into your event. So Joey made this really cool video. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but watch how they kicked off day 2 of the event and the energy and the entertainment value of that.
I put my melody to your message to help you get more attention so you can make more money. Look,
hopefully
if you
everybody
need a
can
banger
hear.
or a commercial like this, just let me know. And remember, don't call it a jingle.
Is that playing in?
I love it.
Wait. $1 Million Mastermind. I almost forgot. It's about to go down. I'm about to throw down. Hey, Deception. Man, spin my shit. Let's go. Come on. Hold up, now let me tell you something about my jingles. Every one that I just made,
This
I
is
could
cool.
push it as a
I love
single.
it.
Tell me your mission and your
So
vision.
think about it.
And I send a banger right back in like 20
open up
minutes.
day
That's my
2
clients.
with a
I'm
rap
serious.
artist
You're not
like
paying
Joey.
for the 20
So shout out to
minutes, but
Joey.
you're
He's an
paying for the
amazing
10
human, does
years
really
of
cool things.
experience.
Subtle
Then
plug
you
to
know
him, as
what
well
it
as
is,
just
you ain't
showing
gotta
off what
pay
you guys
nothing.
did for
Tell
day
your
2
story,
and the
and I'll
production
listen for your
value
different
of it
nuggets.
and the camera on
This is
stage. I know I'm
music for
talking
people
over him
that's out here.
singing, but
But now,
I want to point out these things. Look at the room. Look at the lighting. Look at the production value. Look at the stage once it cuts to there. Right? There's a lot of things that went into this that I want to chat about with you, because there's a lot of design, there's a lot of intentional design here, right? And that's what I want to kind of touch on here. But look at it. I mean, like, I'll just cut to a couple other clips here in the event. But look at the camera angles. Like, look at like look at the different levels of scene switching, guys. Like we joked a couple episodes ago, it doesn't take engagement features and polling and Q&A. They use none of this. They use none of these features on our platform. They literally just built a production value driven broadcast quality event, and that's why it was such a success. And so I want to break that down a little bit for you, and what from your perspective, what went into that. I don't know why.
Yeah. So first off, like even with Joey, I wish that what you just saw, like even compared to what that energy felt like in the room.
Felt like,
yeah, like that was incredible and everything. And that was something that I loved so much, where my goal was try to actually make the live stream more entertaining than what the live event was. Now, with some of the audio, that made it a little bit tougher, right? Because you couldn't hear some of the things like that the crowd was going crazy about. There's some cutting in and out with some of those things. But like you mentioned, the camera cuts, things like that, where you've got a gimbal on stage, and like when Joey comes up to that thing and you see it in the live stream and he's rapping directly to you, like things like that. And then you're cutting to like the camera that we have literally behind the stage that overlooks the entire crowd from a wide angle, at the front of the house where we can see the whole stage there too. But you mentioned kind of the simplicity side of it all. We didn't want to we had a kind of a bandwidth issue of amount of people that could take care of things like the chats and the polling and all that stuff. But we didn't want to get it so complex that it takes away from the overall. Like if I've got my hand in 5 different buckets, then, am I going to do one thing really well, honestly? And so, what we wanted to do is we wanted to, again, just put something up there on stage for eyes to look at, but then also for them to hear. And then like when it came to the live stream side of things, we wanted it to be constantly engaging, because for us, like we can't look at one angle on TV. I've counted before in like TV shows or movies where it's like every 3 seconds there's a camera change, and we don't really pick up on that stuff. But when you're intentional about finding that stuff out, it's like this stuff obviously works because you don't notice it when it's happening, but you notice when they don't do it. When you watch a movie that like an indie film that's like one angle for like 10 minutes, you're like, what the hell am I watching? I'm watching a webcam over here. You know what I mean? Like, and so there was just a lot that went into that we just wanted to say, like, how am I going to constantly over and over and over keep that dopamine rush in their brain, where it's like, we don't know what's coming next, whether it was the cryptocurrency giveaway that we had, or it was the live performance, or it was the value that the speakers were doing, or it was Danny dancing up on stage to Pony by Genuine. Like there are a lot of
that was an interesting moment, by the way.
Yeah. You know what? And he takes it and he just runs with it too. He's creative in that sense as well. But like just a lot of those things, the cryo cannons, the crazy like lighting around the stage. You mentioned it, like the up lighting that sits on the walls and all that. There's just a lot of things that go into that that people don't really notice. But when you do it, it's all like taken subconsciously. And so, like Joey's incredible because he knows how to talk to an audience too, because his whole thing is working with entrepreneurs. Well, who did we have in the room? A bunch of entrepreneurs. So like he was able to create this content, but then also like pitch in a way that didn't feel pitchy. Right. Yeah. So we take that same thing with events where it's like, how do I make them feel like they're at this event without saying like, you are at an event, have fun. Like, no, don't make them have fun. Make them want to have fun, where they come in there and they're like, they just take it and they're like, dude, this is awesome. Like, I want to enjoy every bit of this because I want to drink in everything that I'm seeing and like, just, yeah. So there's that. There's my long-winded response to that.
No, I think you're 100% right, because that's how you make it live beyond the event. And like, even you guys' Facebook group is still kind of popping, and it's been what, 2.5, 3 weeks from the event?
It's been a month exactly.
In a month, yeah. So like it's still going. Like long after the event, there are still folks. Like I saw a flood of it. This is like little things that folks aren't thinking about when they come hybrid. They're like, well, how do I create community and engagement? Well, simple. Like be engaging. Like I've said it before. It's like it's not that hard. And I love how you say like don't make them, or how'd you say it? Don't make them have fun. Like let them want to have fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop trying to like just build that experience and let them have fun with it and let them enjoy their own experience. I think that's that's a takeaway that, guys, I want to unpack a little bit here, just because I think a lot of event planners and organizers like force this journey on their attendees. And it's also, instead, if you took that alternative route and just said, look, I'm going to build something that people then can in turn come and experience for themselves, because everybody experiences things different. It's impossible for you guys to know. So why not just build something that attendee can experience on their own? And that's what you guys did phenomenally well. So kudos again to that. So this was your first hybrid event, right?
Yeah.
You guys hadn't really live streamed events before when we first talked, but you guys saw it quickly. Like, there was zero me selling you on the idea or anything. You were like, yeah, makes total sense. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And so like, why did you guys choose to take this event, minus the pandemic, right? Of course, we had folks not coming, but why did you guys take that initiative to go hybrid and live stream this event out to everybody else?
Yeah, it was really just a separate avenue. I mean, obviously there's money that plays into it, right? Where, you know, we talked with you and we're like, it was just a no brainer because one, what we're paying y'all to have that stuff, like the amount of value that we could bring in or revenue that we could bring in far surpassed it. So like, if y'all are on the fence about ViewStub at all, like, take that leap, because the value that you get far surpasses what you're going to spend on it, like far surpasses it. But really what it came to was the live streaming that we've done in the past. We always video record our stuff, but then we'll like sell it as a replay, or we'll just give it to like our current clients and whatnot. But we literally, like, even for our private groups in Apex, when we do meetups, if people can't make it, we just literally throw a Mac computer, Ryan's computer, and live stream it like a webcam, and they just hold it there. And so like, I took that and looked at it and I'm like, we could do more. And so talking with our AV team, you know, Nate Nelson, Nate was really creative in it too. And he has a lot of experience in it. And he's like, hey, this is what we can do. And I was like, perfect. Cause that's what I already wanted to do. So like, we're aligned right now and we're going to work really well here. And he's like, well, do you want this? Do you want this? And I was like, dude, here's my non-negotiables in it. And then I want to allow you the freedom, because you are the person who's the professional at this. So when it comes to like, we were originally going to have, one person that followed, almost like the spotlight type of camera, right? That follows the talent. And then one like widescreen. And then we were able to work out a way to get, multiple gimbals in there. And then all these other speakers have their own press and camera people that they bring on. And so what we wanted was just a chance to reach a broader audience, because we had live streamed in a way. They were all pre-recorded videos, like a summit for MDM 2020, because we were going to run it, and then COVID happens and we refund all our tickets and then give all of this content away for free for 2020. And so we were like, man, we had 30,000 people on for that. How come we haven't done this before? When we were reaching crowds of 500, we're like, we can reach 30,000. I don't care for if out of those 30,000, only 10,000 watch for the 10 hours of content. Like, we could do that in the beginning, but now it got to a point of, how do we hold those people's attention over and over and over for 2 long days? Like, if you told me to sit in my office or sit in my living room and watch a movie, the best movie of all time, for 10 straight hours, I tell you, you're out of your freaking mind. There's no way I'm going to do it. So how can we keep your attention during a conference where people are also probably working at the same time? Like, they might have dual screens and have live stream on one, they're working and doing their calls and everything from the other. How can we keep that? And so the thought process was just kind of a no-brainer of, why not? Not anything that happened specifically that's like, dude, this live stream is going to, being a hybrid event is going to take us to the next level. It was really just like, why weren't we doing this stuff before? Like, it's 2 different audiences that we're appealing to right now. We're literally, we're appealing to a live stream and to the in-person. And like, we are capable enough and talented enough to be able to talk to 2 separate audiences. Like, I can sit there and have a conversation with one person right in front of me on stage, but I can also have a conversation with the camera right in front of me about what they can do at home to utilize some of these, offers or whatever it is, or the Q&As. And so, it was just like, we have the bandwidth and we're talented enough to make it happen. Why wouldn't we take that chance to go and make some more money off of it, right?
Exactly. More reach, more money. What's the
exactly.
Like that's what we're all here for. Like we're in business. More reach, more money. Like this,
I
it's
love
a
it.
no-brainer. I like how you approach that though. So Patrick, what you got? Where do you want to take us next with this, and we'll wrap up?
Well, I think you already answered. I was really just going to ask him how was his experience using our hybrid platform. Really, you hit it on the head with that one. And I'm really glad that you guys got to use it, and such a great event, such a great production on it. Exactly how someone should use ViewStub, which is why we have you on this episode.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I'm flat out. Like that is like I have said it before. Like this, if you're going to run a hybrid event, there's ways to do it, and to run successful ones. And like I said, this is just kudos to you guys again, that you guys are an example of how to run a hybrid event from in-person experience and everything you guys did there for just the in-person. Because like there was like exclusive moments just for in-person, right? The first night we had what's his name? Coffee? Yeah. Cafe Anderson. Yeah, super cool. Like you guys did a like after hours like random pop-up concert, I believe. Like I remember just Ryan saying, "Hey, I don't know what's going on. Just come back at 9." Like it was just some way of just nonchalantly saying, "Hey guys, show back up. I got an idea." And like little things like that. So I mean, there was in-person exclusiveness. There was live stream, like you said. Like take away some of the stuff that we've said, where it was like Joey or speakers or Danny, who was the MC, was just engagement starts with just looking at the camera. Yeah, it's little things. And like you said, I'm a big proponent of like just keeping it simple, but mastering that. And I think that's what you guys did really well. It's not about engagement features and polling and Q&A and like one-on-one networking virtually. It's just about like, start by looking at the camera. Stuff. Yeah, just look here one time, right? So.
Yeah. People are human. Like they just want to like, especially in a post-COVID world, like they just want to engage. And if they can sit there and look you in the eyes while they're talking to you, then they're going to be engaged. They're going to have that conversation in their own head with you. You know what I mean? Like, what would I, how am I responding to this? How this person's saying this or whatever? Like, what would I say in return in this conversation or whatever? So there's definitely a lot that goes into it, but we're excited for all the stuff that we got coming up next, man.
I want to touch on that, and then we'll let you go. But like, I do want to make note of. I completely lost my train of thought, so we're going to move forward. Jesus Christ, it's Friday. I don't know why we do this show on Fridays, Patrick. Like by the time we get here, like it's like all of us, even the guests, are like. Anyways, so I know what I wanted to ask. So you learned a lot, right? This was your first big event of 1,000 plus. Stewman's biggest event to date. What do you think out of everything now that you're a month out? What do you think are like 3 big key takeaways that you can impart on to our listeners and our followers and stuff like that? What are 3 things that you learned throughout this process?
Yeah, go into it with a mindset planning for things to fail, because in the event world, things are going to go wrong. There is no way that things are going to be perfect. Like, and if you're a control freak, which kind of I am, like I love to have control over things and make sure that they go exactly to my liking. You have to draw a line of where you're ready to let some of that go and realize if the audience doesn't notice any of this stuff, don't kill yourself over it. Because so many times we come away, like, especially at the camps and everything, with it being, I don't need to go into like religion or anything, but like at the Christian camp, at the end of the camp, the goal was, hey, did these people like know Christ when they were out there? And if the answer was yes, then it was a success. Like if there was another brick laid in that wall or like roots that were planted, or a seed that was planted for them to grow into, like, it's not our job to make them commit right away and be like, this is it. It was our job to make sure that they just had that experience and then they can learn and grow from there. So it's the same thing that goes for events. If they get what you wanted them to get out of it, and if that's 98% of them are really happy with the result, you're really good. Don't kill yourself for the 2%. We had a person that like left on Thursday because people around her weren't wearing masks. And it was like, it's not mandated here in Texas. You know what I mean? Like we're not going to tell, like we did make the announcement because the hotel asked us to, or, basically made us, and they laughed at us, right? Because that's our people. That's our culture, where they're like, we literally just flew in here. And part of the appeal for us was that we didn't have to deal with that mess anymore. So big takeaway is just make sure that the people get what they need to get out of it, but don't kill yourself when something goes wrong, because it's going to go wrong. You mentioned it. Be a problem solver, put out fires. The day of your event should be the easiest day. Honestly, if you've prepared yourself enough, so preparation is huge. Set these timelines set to fail as well. So it's like I said with the speakers, if the deadline is, honestly, the day before the event, make sure that you tell them that it's 2 weeks before the event or 3 weeks, and then be a sense of urgency. As an event planner, it's yours. So the success and failure both lie on you. So don't sit there and make an excuse and say, oh, well, the speakers didn't get to me the stuff in time. If you planned for it better and said, hey, 4 weeks ago, this was supposed to be on, and you are upfront with them about it, these people are professionals too. So when they're not on top of their stuff, they can understand and take like credit for them being wrong. So, when I'm talking to people like Steve Kuklo, who's 300 pounds and, has placed in the top 5 4 different times for Mr. Olympia in the last 5 years, I can sit there and be real with them and say, hey, this is a problem. You need to get this stuff done. I'm just saying Steve as an example. Steve was on top of everything. He was actually our most prompt person. I love him to death. But like, that's a big dude, at 300 pounds, bodybuilder. His arms are bigger than my entire torso. But like, it's yours. You take the chair. If you're going to be scared and timid, you're screwed. You're going to get eaten alive by these people. So, take ownership in that. In your preparation. And then lastly, it would just be, when you're working with people, don't let them see any of your stress. Be happy, have fun, because people will take your stress and they'll feel it too. When they see you panicking because something's going wrong behind the scenes, they're going to feel that panic too. And then, not that there's like a mob mentality or something that can happen out there, but events can turn pretty quickly if you're not on top of your stuff and not communicative, but also not confident in your ability to solve those problems. So as we mentioned, it's about solving the problems, but like, you've just got to be ready to, hey, if something goes wrong, take ownership for it. We had some food issues with the hotel of them not making the certain amount and then not serving them correctly. And I took full ownership of that, because like, we had 200 people in our VIP room, and they were at the open bar. They were at the Q&A, and 45 minutes go by, the Q&A ends, and all the food was gone. And I was like, how is that even possible? Well, they're like, because I only saw like 15 people in there, like total. Everyone was at the bars getting their drinks or at the Q&A. And they're like, well, we would just serve 3 of them. And if they wanted one of each, that's fine. And if they wanted more, we'd give that to them. And I was like, well, that's fine. And so but I'm not going to tell them don't eat, but how does that even happen? And then I had someone come up to me. They're like, they just lied to your face. They're actually serving 6, 2 of each on each plate. And then if they're asking for more, it was 7 or 8. So they'd go and give them like a person a plate of these like hors d'oeuvres that are huge, like literally this big each. And people didn't get to eat. And so like, I chewed into them, but I also told them like, that's my fault. I'm totally sorry. And they're like, dude, it is actually totally okay. I'm just really happy that like you went up to them and you addressed it with the hotel, and you like kind of tore into them. Like they're like, we loved it. I felt bad, but it was also like, it wasn't what was promised. When I addressed it, it wasn't standard practice. It was things like that. So, but I didn't let them feel that. And I just took that ownership myself. So like, make it your own, sit there and be ready, be confident, and then just go crush it. Like, just sit there, have fun with it. That's the whole goal of it all. If you sit there and you're just thinking in your head and you just make sure that things are falling into place, it can be fun. And when something goes wrong, like, it's okay. Amy Stewman was supposed to be on stage, and she was at valet getting the Lambo, but she's pregnant, so she moved slow. So like, Ryan's up there on stage during the event, like for a minute and a half, wait in silence, waiting for Amy to show up there. But people thought it was funny at the end of it. Like, we're over there like, oh crap, this is going down.
Yeah, stressing out. Exactly. Yeah.
30 seconds of dead silence when something's supposed to be happening at an event is like, your heart goes through your chest. But people thought it was funny. So like, at the end of the day, have fun with it, be prepared, but then be ready, and just be ready for things to fail. Just put out fires. Let the day of be the hardest part, and make the 2 weeks prior and the day before really like the time that you sit there and just go hard in the paint, because that's where the work's going to be. And then you just get to see it all pay off and kind of sit back on the days of the event if you do it right.
I love it. Big takeaways for folks. Like, a lot of you guys are event people, event professionals doing events for clients. Like, take ownership in that. Like I love how you say that, because even though it's not your event, if it's a client's event, you still it's still an extension of you. That's your work being displayed. So take ownership of it. I love how you say that. So let's wrap this up, because I want to know, just curious as to how do you plan on going bigger?
Oh man. So there are some secrets in place that I can't fully disclose. But our budget's going to raise pretty big. Yeah, well,
you gotta know one or two. Let us know. We'll keep it quiet. We won't share this out to all of Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or
Facebook
LinkedIn
Live
or Spotify. Yeah.
So like to be entirely transparent, our goal is to take it from 1,000 people to 10,000+. And there are a couple areas around DFW that potentially might house some professional sports teams or something.
Something like that.
Yeah. that we're working on and trying to make some stuff happen with. Now it all comes down to numbers, and it comes down to how much time in advance we can start promoting this stuff. So as long as I can get a team in place to be on top of their stuff in the marketing, the emails, blasts, the slide dials, where it just goes straight to voicemail, things like that, all those small things. If we can run some of those things 6 months, a year in advance, and say, that's why I got started on it the week after MDM.
Yeah.
If we can get some of those things in place, we can fill those types of numbers. But if we only do it, for MDM, we only started selling those tickets February 8th, and the event was April 28th. So, like 2 months of some prep time there, and for people to actually get ready and put their schedules and get all that stuff. So for us to go bigger, it's just going to take more planning, and it's going to take a really awesome experience again, where maybe there are some things that are off-site, depending if it's 10K people. There's a lot of logistics that go into that, but we want to be able to give them an experience, kind of like what Dan Fleischman's doing right now with the Avengers Mastermind, where, they go and you have Rick Ross, or you have Floyd Mayweather, or you have 2 Chainz out at your stuff, or Shaquille O'Neal or something. And like, you get to talk with these people, you get to listen from them too, where that notoriety is there. But then they're also getting wowed with things like, I know you mentioned it, Dylan, in I think like episode 2, maybe, of EventMASTERS, where it's like, I got a slide dial while I was at the event. Maybe it wasn't Dylan, but it was it was either one of y'all that were at a live event, and like you got a voicemail where it's like the people of the event telling you this is going on at this time, and you can walk over there and do that, and small stuff like that. That I'm like, this is how we can improve it. We came in with a laundry list of things, and that's why we're really working on our own event space too, so that we can do a lot of trial and error on our own end at a smaller scale, and then throw some money into these bigger ones. So the event venue is going to be big, and that's going to be probably a large part in it, but then also just having a team in place, and then really wowing them with the dinners, the things that you can do around those areas, the art, the chandeliers, like all that stuff. People like showing up and feeling like they're now in a higher class than what they were before. So that's what we're looking for.
Yeah,
we'll have to come visit the venue.
Yeah, man. We're super excited. So guys, if you want to follow along this journey and what it looks like the planning mode for next year's big event, if you want to watch it in real time, like make sure you go. We'll drop all of Tyler's links and everything. Definitely check out Breakfree Academy. I know Patrick and I are both longtime fans and followers of that whole entire culture and community itself. So it's been fun to work with you guys over here at ViewStub. I'm excited for future endeavors and things like that. So we'll drop links to find Tyler on socials and everything. And with that, Patrick, you want to take us out, my man?
Event next. That's all I got to say.
Thanks.
Event next Friday, June 4th. Join us, and also text us 407-214-5335. You can text Dylan and I, and one of us will respond.